The African continent is expected to have a very busy election calendar in 2024. At least 19 countries, including our own, scheduled for presidential or general elections. Now, this past week, the International Political Campaigns Expo hosted African political parties and election management bodies in Cape Town. They were discussing the impact of artificial intelligence and big data on African political campaigns. So we're asking this morning, what is the role of AI in politics, and what were some of the key takeaways from that two-day gathering? Joining us this morning is Alberto Fernandez Gibaja. He is with the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. Alberto, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. And of course, you're joining us from Stockholm this morning. You know, the technology, AI, big data, these can all be incredibly positive tools, but in a worst case scenario, they can also be incredibly detrimental to democracies.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. That's indeed the case, and this is something we have already learned from social media. They are very powerful tools. They can help us connect to each other. They can help us spread political ideas, connect with people with similar political ideas, hold government to account. But in the wrong hands, they're also very powerful tools. Technology per se, in general, what they do is they increase the good things and the bad things of society. So what we face today is the need to do that, to protect the possibility of using technology for the good things, but also protect our democracies against malicious uses of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they magnify the good and the bad in countries, right? Let's start with the positives this morning, Fernando. Insofar as election participation is concerned here in South Africa, we have seen a dwindling election participation rate over the past few elections, particularly among the young people. Some 14 million young people don't even bother to register here in South Africa. And that is in line with the global trend, right, of around 45% of eligible voters choosing not to take part in the electoral process. How does AI and big data begin to address that part of elections?
Well, when it comes to registration, artificial intelligence can help in trying to understand better the demographics, who is not registering, which parts of the country are not registering. It can help analyzing that data and through this analysis create better campaigns for registration, try to target them a little bit better, try to identify better what type of messages are working, what type of messages are not working. It can also help updating the way those messages are created, although I have to say that campaigns for registration in South Africa are pretty well done. But it can help in registering, but it can also help in bringing politics to the interest of people, again, through understanding a little bit better the demographics, the sentiment of the population, and then targeting the campaigns to, not the political campaigns, but the campaigns to register, to protect democracy, this idea of we are all part of this democracy, better to these groups of population.
Yeah. So this expo that was held in Cape Town, this Political Campaigns Expo, it was primarily for African political parties and election management bodies, right? And what were they saying about how ready they are to harness the advantages of technology insofar as their election campaigns are concerned?
Well, the general feeling, the general vibe in the room was that we are in front of a massive opportunity and a massive challenge at the same time. We're in front of a massive opportunity because through the use of artificial intelligence, political parties and electoral management bodies feel there are a lot of possibilities to improve the way they campaign, to make their campaigns more smart, more data-driven. But we all know already for experience that that's also a risk. And there are two separate risks that probably are facing the continent right now. One is how do we regulate the use of data and the use of artificial intelligence for political campaigns. What examples do we have that we can get inspiration from, and how do we create continental-wide or contextually adapted rules for artificial intelligence? Another problem or another challenge that the continent is facing is the issue of digital public infrastructure. How much data is available, and whose data is available? What demographics in the countries are generating data, and which groups of the population might be left outside because they are not connected to the internet. So it's both infrastructure and regulation.
Yeah, so it's almost like political parties in the use of technology will be preaching to the choir. These likely will be people who already have connectivity, already have access to all of the information that they need, and those who perhaps have less access to data, just given the cost of data here in South Africa and on the continent as well. Those are the people you want to reach, and that's where the difficulty lies.
That's true, but at the same time, also minorities and unprotected groups of population might be at risk, because without proper data protection legislation, without proper artificial intelligence during political campaigns legislation, it is relatively easy for political parties to target vulnerable groups, or to use sensitive data to target vulnerable groups. So, for instance, trying to target with political messages, with negative political message, certain ethnic groups or certain religious groups. And that's risky. So we need to have legislation that creates safeguards against those type of practices that we have seen all over the world already. Yeah.
I imagine, Alberto, that there's also a trust question that comes into play insofar as AI is concerned, right? Those of us who are not in the technological space have our own ideas of what artificial intelligence means. We've seen deep fakes of celebrities, of people on social media. There's going to be a question about what I see and what I can trust as messaging from a particular political party.
That's true. The main message that we read on media today is that through artificial intelligence there will be a multiplication of content, of disinformation, and that's questionable. It's not. Disinformation is not a matter of demand. It's not a matter of offer. It's a matter of demand, and that's not going to change much. What is going to change probably is the use of deepfakes, and that it's attacking directly the trust on information in general. If we can figure out what's true, what's not true, we are really in the blind. We don't have our tools to decide our vote. And that creates one very dangerous thing, which is, and we have seen already this, the liar's dividend, the possibility of denying everything. Because any politician can always say, well, that's a deep fake, that wasn't me, even if it's obviously. And it's not a matter of believing or not believing that. It's a matter of having a doubt, questioning if that's true or not. And that's enough.
Yeah.
Having that question, that's enough to disrupt the information environment.
Yeah, absolutely. The job now for those overseeing the integrity of elections becomes bigger with the introduction of AI and technology.
That's true. Becomes bigger in a moment where electoral management bodies, who are responsible for monitoring, securing the integrity of elections, have suffered a lot of attacks on their trust from either politicians not recognizing the results, or for political parties using narratives to question the integrity of the process. So what remains to be done, part of what remains to be done right now, is to support electoral management bodies and to support their independence, their funding, and their capacity to secure elections in democracies.
Yeah. Alberto, if we take a look at other countries around the world, is there an example that stands out for you of a country or countries that have used AI to their benefit and they've done so well?
That is a difficult question. There are a lot of small uses of artificial intelligence that might have been beneficial in terms of making the state a little bit more agile or faster or more efficient. There is one case that always comes to my mind, which is Estonia, a very small country that has a very strong digital public infrastructure. And thanks to that, they are using different artificial intelligence systems. The thing is that we usually don't hear about the good cases because those don't make the news. We hear about the bad cases because those are the ones that make the news. And sadly, we have quite a lot of those bad cases already.
Yeah. Speaking of, it's going to be an incredibly interesting election season, not only here on the African continent, but also in the US, right? That's
Yes.
going to be an important one to watch.
That's, in many instances, the key one to watch, not because the US is more important than other countries, it's the first economy, but not only because of that, it's also because a lot of the know-how and technological developments actually happen there. So some of the most accurate uses of deepfakes are possible in the US. Also, because of the amount of content of images that can be used to train AI systems of politicians in the US is bigger, so AI systems will be better in creating deepfakes. The dominance of the English language is fundamental as well. There is one example in Pakistan. There has been uses of deepfakes and audio deepfakes, but because artificial intelligence systems are not as refined in Urdu as they are in English, they're easier to spot.
Yeah.
That's probably not the case for English, for American English specifically.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the most risky ones. But I will say it's not the only case. And our eyes, I think we will take a good decision if we put our eyes in all elections that are happening this year, from India to Indonesia to South Africa, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget that the term alternative facts, I believe, emerged in one of the US elections. That's an interesting little tidbit for you there. Alberto Fernandez Gibaja, thanks very much. Fascinating conversation and an incredibly important one.